Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the YGMS podcast. Today, I'm really happy to be joined by Josh Barron. He is doing the 90K Ultra Revival. Josh, thanks for being on the show.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Now, right off the top, now I'm not good at naming things, as you're probably aware. The 90K Ultra Revival. Can you take me through the name?
Yeah. So, 20 years ago, I was in a motor vehicle accident, broke my back, my pelvis, my ankle, and 20 years I wanted to kind of do something to, I don't know if celebrate's the right word, but I wanted to do something for myself for the 20 years. And people that know me know that I don't really like to do things, and be it about me. I want it to be about something else. So I was trying to figure out what I could do and decided, I've always wanted to run an ultra marathon. Why don't I do an ultra marathon, but we'll take it to the extreme. Instead of doing 40, 50K, we'll do 90K. And so Ultra Revival is just kind of the ultra for the ultra running, and then revival because it's 20 years and kind of reliving or remaking my life, I guess, kind of since the accident.
So, I know I talked to you, so maybe I should step back and let the listeners know how I met Josh. Now, how I met Josh was I actually met him at this year's really long run to end MS. As I meet a lot of people these days, I met him while I was running. This seems to be how that goes. Maybe I need to get out more, and I know we chit-chatted a bit then about your accident. Are you comfortable sharing what happened to you?
Yeah, it's, for a really long time, I never talked about it. There's still people that are fairly close to me that don't really know, and part of, I guess, the healing process would be talking about it now. And so I decided when I was going to do this run and do all this that I had to be more open. And so essentially, I'm 13 years old. We lived in the country, and headed on my skidoo to one of the ponds in the local area to play some outdoor hockey shinny. And on my way back from checking the ice, just somehow the guy that driving the truck said I looked at him, but somehow never registered that there's a truck there, and go across the road and whammo. Just T-boned by a truck on my skidoo, and pretty lucky to had survived, let alone be able to be as active as I am. So something to celebrate, and that's why I want to show myself that I can do something that a lot of people don't think that's even possible, and that's running an ultra marathon.
Now, when I met you on the side of the road, I think you had mentioned, when I asked you how far have you run before, and I think you told me basically the furthest you'd ever gone is a half marathon. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was I think at the time it was like between a half and 25K, the farthest that I had run. So, I got a lot of people looking at me sideways when I said, yeah, I'm going to run 90K. And they're like, you're crazy. Like, how far have you run? That's usually the first question out of anyone who runs. And when I say, like 21, 25, they're like, ooh, you got a lot to learn. And like, yeah, I do. But I think, as you would know, after say like 25, 30K, your conditioning plays a part of it. But the mental battle is kind of what I'm drawn to now that I've been doing it a lot more this year. And
well, you ran that. Was it 50 you did a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I ran it on June 27th. I did kind of a trial run to test some things, and the goal was somewhere between 50 and ultimately try to get to 60, and fell a little short of the 60, but 56K was a good test, and learned a lot of things. I felt way better than I thought I would, but definitely learned a lot of things, and kind of puts the 90Ks in perspective on what you need to be watching and what you need to kind of maintain to make your body able to endure the test.
Yeah, you punish yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You just keep punishing yourself until, and that you mentioned the mental. I mean, that's all. I mean, if you could run a half marathon, even if you'd only ever trained for that distance, bear chasing you could push out a half marathon. You can push out. I mean, that's just my belief, but.
No, I think I would agree with that. You definitely, I think everyone's distance is probably different. But yeah, when you hit that certain distance, whatever it is for you, it's not necessarily all about your endurance and your training. It's more, can you get through? Can you grab that pain and turn it off or turn it into something else and move forward from it? Do a lot of thinking too, right? So I find it helps me get away from everyday life and see the things that are important and kind of refocus myself after those long runs as well.
Now, you had an accident, but obviously that doesn't really have anything to do with MS. So, but you're doing this to raise money for the MS Society. So, how does that tie in?
Well, about 6 years ago, I went to the Hinton MS bike ride, with some friends, as just kind of like a way to get out and go ride some trails that you don't usually ride. And the team has every year kind of grown substantially. It's more of like a family, to be honest with you. And some of our team members either have MS or their significant other has MS. And to be completely honest with you, when I first started coming to these MS events, I didn't really know much about it, didn't understand exactly what it was. I just kind of got the quick 100-foot view of the summary. But as I got to know these people and call them friends and, like I said, family, some of them, I got to see like how devastating it can be. And it just, like, for example, the McFinns, I look at them and, like, if my wife had MS and it affected our life the way, like, it's upside down, like, just like that, like, what would I do? Like, I got no idea. I can't imagine it. And to see how, like, strong they are and how hard they push to find a cure, it's like, I want to do whatever I can to help these people, right? And then another teammate, Molly, like, she has MS, and to be honest, I didn't know she had MS until a couple years ago. So she had it, was riding, but like never like talked about what she was going through, and then finding this out and being like, well, like, she rides just as hard as the rest of us. Like, I can't imagine what that feels like the days after, right? But just like the grind of it, and it's inspirational, right? And then you all know Patricia. She, like, Energizer Bunny, just go, go, go. And again, like inspirational how it affects your life, but you're not letting it control you. And I really want to try and help make a difference.
Well, I can tell you, as somebody who has it, thank you. I'm sure people listening will say thank you as well. Now, take me through what's going to happen the day of. Like, when's the date, and what's your plan?
Oh, survive. So the date of the run is September 6th. It's kind of an out and back trail in the Hinton backcountry. So just kind of working out the final kind of schedule of the actual day, but it's going to look something like starting at 4:30 a.m. and hoping to finish within 15 hours kind of thing. The weather will play a big factor on how long it's going to take. If it's semi-decent and not raining the whole time, I think 15 hours is a good goal for myself. If it's raining and whatnot, it's going to be probably a little bit longer, but that's just adding to the mental component for it. So it's about 45, 50K up to halfway, where we'll have a little bit of a lunch and a break, and not very long, because I'm afraid that if I stop for too long, it'll be too hard to get going again. And then
I don't stop long.
Yeah.
Don't do it, because once your legs start to seize up, it's not fun.
Yeah, and that was one thing that I kind of learned on my trial run there. It started raining really hard, and I slowed way down on the trails and really started to seize up. And then, once you start, you can't really reverse that unless you want to stop and stretch and have someone help you stretch, right? So. But so we'll.
I don't know if you saw me, but when I got to, I can't remember where you joined, but you were at Horlac, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember when we came into Horlac, my kids started running, so I got down on one knee to hug them, and my hamstring just seized on me. Mm-hmm. That was and my wife had to work. I felt like, because all these people waiting for me, and I just feel like a complete idiot because she's having to just so I can stand up. So breaks are okay, but you don't want to stop moving too much.
Yeah, and so I have a small a small support team that I have planning to come with me. The original plan was they were all going to take turns running with me, but I since kind of wisened up, and they can run if they want, but we're definitely going to have bikes there for them to ride, because I want them to enjoy it. I don't want them to be enduring a sufferfest like I am. So it's my sick world. They don't necessarily have to come along on that part of the journey, but it will be fun to have them there and share. And I'm sure we'll be able to share some laughs a few days after.
You mentioned the weather. I'll share another story. It's just the first year that I did my run. It was almost 30 degrees. Man, is that so late now? I'd rather have 15 in rain than 30. It was brutal.
Yeah, I would agree. And even right now, I'm half expecting it to be snowing. So I don't know what to expect. You never know in the mountains. It could be sunny in the morning and raining in the afternoon, which I would be okay with. But whatever it is, it's just gonna add to the journey, right? So.
Well, interestingly enough, I have a lot of American listeners to the podcast. I know some have emailed me as far as south as Texas, right?
Okay.
So yes, to the listeners down south, snow in September in Western Canada is legitimate. This is a legitimate fear that he has right now.
Yeah, especially you're in the mountain range, right? So the Hinton bike ride is usually in the first part of September too, and it's not uncommon to be up there and get a little bit of snow at the very high altitude. So I know that it can happen, so I'm preparing. I'm expecting it to snow, so that if it does, I'm not dang it, I really wish it didn't. But if it does, it does, and we'll just power through. Bring some snowshoes.
Your nutrition plan. Take me through, because I know for me it took doing ultras more than, well, several times before I finally, and I think this year was probably the best I'd ever had it dialed in. So what's your plan?
It's funny you say that. So before this year, I was kind of one of those guys that just always said, oh, well, you can just tough it out. Like, you don't need to be eating or worrying too much about what you're doing during. It's just make sure you take care of yourself before and after. And this year really opened my eyes with the training. Like, you need to be fueling constantly, especially when you're training for ultras. Like, you need to be eating every hour, and you need to have variety. You got to go from there. So I've been working with my cousin. He's got some background in the nutrition and the kind of the kinesiology of the body. And so we've got it kind of ironed out, and that was a big reason for doing that test in June, was to see how my body reacted to different things further out, say like over the 35, 40K mark. And, there are some things that don't work. I learned that. And some things that did work. So what we've done is we've kind of sat down, gone over the data, and made some tweaks, which we think will be the right ones for the run. And if they're not, we're going to have a few other options available that we can kind of change on the fly. But it's so hard because you set out a plan and you have, okay, at this kilometer, I'm going to have this snack and I'm going to drink this much water. But so many things impact that. Like, if it's hotter than you anticipated, you're going to drink way more water. And it's a fine line. Like, how tight do you follow the plan too, right? Sometimes you got to call an audible just to try things. But yeah, there's definitely, it's not black and white, is it, right?
I'll make sure my buddy Mark listens to this one, because he's a guy who soloed the death race.
Yeah.
He was the guy with the big red beard.
Yeah.
And he's been on me for a while, like for years actually, because I don't plan anything.
Yeah.
I just think I'll just do it.
Yeah.
And I'm stubborn that way. But this year I agreed to follow, but it was actually, I don't know if you remember Brenda.
Yeah.
I guess she coaches ultra runners.
Okay.
And she was on me about my salts and about this, and then she basically took over for about a good 40K. I mean, she was, Sean, take these, take that, take these. And so when I say I had it dialed in, I just had the right people around me.
Yeah, and that's huge, right? Like I said, even now I'm not very good at being like, okay, this is what I need to do. I kind of look at someone and be like, what do you think I should do? And I just kind of take advice from really anyone who will give it and be like, that seems like it might work for me. And then I'll go try it on shorter distances. And if it works, then I kind of add it to the bag of tricks. But if it doesn't work, then I just cross it off the list and go from there. But yeah, I know some people are like very rigid. They have to have, it all planned out and have to do step by step. But I just feel like at some points I'm going to be like, I know I need snack bag C, but I really want those candies. Can I have the candies this time?
Sour keys, man. Those things are great.
So I got a plan. I'm going to try and follow it the best I can, but I'm also going to have the options, because let's face it, like 60, 70K, and sometimes you just need something to look forward to, and maybe it's some sour keys or some green frogs or piece of beef jerky, whatever it's going to be, but have some things that we can kind of use as keys to get me to the next checkpoint and keep soldiering on.
Now, when you sat down, I was asking you about your kids, and it was before we started recording, but you mentioned you've got a fairly young baby at home. And how old's this little guy you said?
Ivor's 4, and the youngest is Kira, and she's about 1.5 years.
Okay, so I know what training for these things is like, and it's pretty much a full-time job. Now, I know you're tapering right now, so it's probably, your load's probably not nearly as heavy as it was.
Yeah.
Now, when I trained for the first one in 2015, let's see, what are we doing? It's 4 years ago, so Jonah would have been 2, and my daughter would have, so similar, very similar spread. And and I know I had to really plan out. So how has it been having a young family? Because I mean, really, you're training every day that ends in Y. You're doing something. So how's it managing? You managing that?
It's a lot of like, in the spring you're running, in the dark in the morning or at night. I think almost every Saturday, there's maybe 2 Saturdays since February, March that I haven't got up at 4:30, 5 o'clock to go for a run. I mean, it's tough. It definitely is. I owe my wife a lot of thanks for putting up with it, because I mean, there's lots of times where you're going again this Saturday. It's like, yeah, like, get this, I gotta do this, and she's been very understanding, and I appreciate that. Like I probably don't show her enough that I appreciate it, but it's definitely it is tough, and I've said that to a few people now when they're asking, how's it been training, and would you do it again? And I would do it again, but I also question how these people can be pro ultra runners, do it all the time. How do they work, have a family, and train?
I can tell you how I do it. I work in sales. That's how I do it.
It's insane, right? It's crazy, but power to them, right? If you want to do it, you're gonna find a way. And
what do you do for a living? Are you a 9-to-5 guy? How does that work with your work?
So I work at an industrial welding shop. I'm a project manager there, and so a typical day is usually 7 to 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then so it's up, go to work, come home, supper, play with the kids, put them to bed, and go for a run or go for a bike ride, do something, and then go to bed and get up and do it all over again.
I have to say, in a really sadistic way, I'm enjoying this interview, because I'm looking at you and I know exactly, and it's not me right now. When I go for a run, I might run 5, I might run 10. One day I might push to 15 just because I feel like it.
Yeah.
But where you're at right, not now because you're tapering, but we're at 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a full-time friggin' job.
It is definitely, yeah. You have to love it, right? You have to enjoy being out there.
Have you learned, I know for me, it's now, running's an addiction now. If I go 2 or 3 days without running, I get really antsy.
Antsy, anxious, whatever you want to call it. It definitely, it's almost a stress relieving activity in a way, right? And I don't know how to explain it, but when things get going crazy at work or just in life sometimes now, if I had a stretch of 3-4 days where for some reason I wasn't running, it was I'm going for a run. If I got to get up at 3 in the morning, I'm going to go. If I can't go till 9:30 tonight, so be it. I'm going for a run kind of thing. So there's that. And only other runners who enjoy it the way you do and the way I do understand when you say you need to go, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know what that feeling is.
I'm actually having that feeling right now, because we're talking about it. I'm like, okay, when he's gone, my wife won't be home. Maybe I'll be able to squeeze in a quick 5,
Yeah. It's just you're able to shut your mind off. Shut your mind off from the things that are going on right then and think about whatever pops into your mind, right? I don't know. I think sometimes I wonder if everyone would be able to find that mental spot, how much the world would be a better place sometimes.
I like the way you think. I mean, I know for me when I run, and you talk about getting into your mind, to me it's like a meditation, right? Because if I'm having an issue with my career, right? Which is actually, in fact, I've been thinking about a lot when I've been running recently. But the running helps me come to a conclusion, because I have, if I run for an hour and a half, I've got an hour and a half just to sit in my own head. And a lot of times I find I've stopped running even with headphones.
Yeah.
So really all I can do is think. and I don't drift because of, like, if I listen to a podcast, I start to think about what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But if I'm just letting my mind wander,
Yeah.
and then you can just sit on an idea, and yeah, it's just a completely. I agree with that. I think if everybody went for a regular walk or run,
Yeah.
because not everybody can,
Yeah.
or roll if you're mobility
Well,
or
yeah,
whatever,
like,
whatever it is.
Whatever it is, like it's therapeutic, right? Like I don't know what the scientific backing of that is, but it definitely, like, yeah, I agree. Like sometimes I'll run with music, like just playing on my phone, but especially now, like in the last couple weeks, like trying to make sure I got everything lined up. Like, are my lists good? How's my map, my planning? Like, trying to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Like, that's all I think about on the runs is, okay, we got to do this. We got to have this in time. How can I generate more traffic to my social media and try and generate more funds? Like, who else can I reach out to? Who, stuff like that. And just when the music's on now, I can't think. But there's definitely sometimes where you just want the music on, and the music is kind of your safe haven too. But I think it's just good to kind of get to take that time for yourself, right? And deal with whatever's going on in life. Because sometimes people just let it bottle, push it down, and then it comes out, and that's when you're way more reactionary than you might want to be, right?
Now you mentioned social media, so why don't you let everyone know where they find you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at 90K Ultra Revival. And basically all I've tried to do with that is just kind of show people what the Edmonton River Valley and trail system looks like. Because we have like one of the best trail systems, or urban trail systems, let's call it, in North America, I would say.
I have to stop here. I have to say, the day that I did my run, and I know your 50K route was over a lot of the same area, going from Fort Saskatchewan all the way to Devon like that, for a prairie city, we are...
It's amazing.
It's unreal, right? Like, it literally isn't... I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, please, with how they find you online.
So I've just been trying to kind of showcase what the Edmonton River Valley has for trails, and show a little bit of what it takes to plan and train for one of these ultra marathons. And then there's the odd post about how I'm doing with fundraising and trying to kind of generate a little more activity there. But
where do people go to donate?
So on whatever social media you find me on, there's links to the MS Society donation portal, and the money, I just set it up so it just directly goes to the MS Society. You get your charitable donation from them and go from there. You can Google the MS Hinton bike ride, because that's the platform that they have set up. I'm fundraising for my bike riding team, even though I'm doing a run. And they can find me there, and just click donate now and put however much you can afford to, or you're willing to donate, and hopefully we can find a cure for this sooner than later.
Even if we find a cure, I'm still running. I mean, it's not like I'm going to stop.
And you know what? That's the thing, right? Like, some of these things, like running, like, can you go wrong being active? You can't. Like, it's good for you. So whatever it is that gets you doing something outside or being active, like, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I agree. I'm not gonna stop just because it gets cured or anything like that. You just move on to the next thing that needs to be.
We've done a number on our planet, no question about that. So there's plenty of stuff you and I can run to raise money for. Hey, question for you. Have you checked your resting heart rate recently?
No, then you're not the first person to ask.
The reason why I ask is you can probably tell from looking around my makeshift studio here that I'm a giant nerd, if you hadn't noticed by the R2-D2 or the comic books. And the reason why I bring that up is I went to take my daughter to the Mythbusters exhibit at the Space Science Center a couple weeks ago. And after we were done in the Mythbusters exhibit, we went into one of those side rooms where they got all that stuff you can test and, experiments you can play with and stuff. And they had a heart rate monitor in there. So I figured, what the heck, I might as well check it and see what it was at. And I actually didn't know what my heart rate was at. And it came up 49, and I knew at the time it was pretty good, so I snapped a picture of it.
One of my crew is asking me for that information. I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't geek out about that stuff.
I'm the same as you. I only did it because I was there, and I thought, what the heck, I might as well give it a try. And to be honest, when I saw 49, I thought that would be pretty good, so I took the picture of it, but I really didn't know how good it was. And as it turns out, it puts me in the top. When I got home, I did a quick search engine search and found out that a resting heart rate of 49 for a guy who is 42 puts me in the top 2% of men aged 40 to 45. And to get in the top 1%, you need a resting heart rate of 46. So I'm thinking next year my goal is going to be to see if I can get her down at 46.
Jeepers. That's a goal and a half.
Well, why not?
Yeah. You're there.
The hilarious thing about that is, people look at me and they never guess I have a resting heart rate that low. And it's always been, ever since I started this stuff, I tell people I run ultras and they always give me that look like, he doesn't do that.
Yeah, and that's a funny thing about running. Like, I'm not a runner of a long time. Like, I got into running 3, maybe 4 years ago. Actually, we'll call it 4 years ago when my son was born, because it was just something that you could, I don't have to pack up a bike. I need a pair of running shoes, pants, shorts, shirt, and you can go. You can go from your house. You can be on vacation. Whatever it is, and you can go for a quick run, right? And so, I just kind of started there and slowly started falling in love with the long distance running. And look where I am now. But, this year, so many people are like, oh, what's your fitness plan? How many hills are you running? What kind of sprints are you running? I don't have a plan for that. I go week to week if
Josh, the reason why I'm laughing is because you sound just like me.
Well, honestly, there's nothing wrong with having those plans, but if you're able to listen to what your body tells you on the runs, week to week, I would change it up. As in, let's say last week I felt real sluggish on hills. You know what I did this week? I would run hills. Not necessarily go do hill sprints, but just run more routes with hills to be like, hey, I gotta really push up these hills. And then if I felt like I wasn't being fast enough, then I would try and incorporate some more speed in there. But listening to the body, seeing, okay, I feel like I need to improve here. That's what I'm gonna work on next week. And you just kind of keep cycling through, and I don't know.
So when you joined me on my run, it was funny because I'm running beside, people like Brenda and Dean and people who are, sold the death race and done lots of ultras. And they're asking me all these kind of questions like, what are you doing for speed work? And what are you doing for this? And, what are you doing for hills? And I thought, oh, shit, I don't even know what they're talking about. It's when I look back to when I did my first really long run in 2015, I didn't even know that an ultramarathon was a thing at the time. I found out by researching how to run that far that an ultramarathon was a thing. So, I just went onto a search engine and found a plan, followed the plan. I didn't even know if it was a good plan. I just followed it and figured, but I hadn't done any research into nutrition or anything. So when I went to go run it, I figured out quite quickly that nutrition was a definite thing. And what's funny about that is my buddy Mark, who you met, in his pack, when he goes to do, a distance run, I mean, the guy's prepared for everything from a biblical flood to an asteroid impact. I mean, he's got everything. And the thing is, I might make fun of him for it, but he's right, because you don't know what's going to happen that day. You don't know what the weather's going to be like. And, for me, a lot of times I've just kind of been, I'll be okay. I'll be okay.
Well, and there's definitely nothing wrong with it. Like, everybody's different, right? Like, everybody needs different nutrition or can handle different things, nutrition wise or planning your training wise. It's so diverse of a sport, right? Like, and that's one thing that I really like about running is that you show up. Like, last year I ran my first trail half marathon, and that was down in Kananaskis. And like, you're standing there and you're looking at everyone, and like, I'm by no means a fit person, or like maybe you could say athletic. But like, I'm looking around and I'm like, some of these people aren't going to make it 5 kilometers. But like, they trucking along just as good as I am. Like, okay, lesson learned. Like, when running, you can't judge a book by its cover.
Well, it's funny, I've done the Grizzly, I think, 3 times now, and I've done some other ultras, one in Kamloops and the Blackfoot and some other stuff. And it's funny because sometimes you'll be standing in the starting chute and you'll look around and you'll think, thank God I'm not the only normal-looking person. I mean, you see all body types. I mean, you'd be looking around and, and you realize that sort of what we're sold in the media is not necessarily representative of what real people look like. And as an example, I was looking last week. There was a headline that I feel terrible for even clicking on. I'm not really much of a I don't follow the Kardashians or anything like that, but and it was Aquaman. The guy who played Aquaman was being body shamed because there was a picture of him without a shirt on, and he wasn't as shredded as he normally is. But when I looked at the picture he was being shamed for, I was thinking, this is ridiculous. I mean, the guy, he was still a buff guy. I mean, he still had his, he was still a muscular looking guy, and you could still see the outline of his abs, and he was just a little puffier than he was when an Aquaman. But a Chancellor on Aquaman, he had to starve himself to look that way. And he was being shamed for having a dad bod, and I thought, my Lord, I'd love to have his dad bod buddy anytime, you know what I mean? And it's just, to me, how does that guy get body shamed? If Aquaman's getting body shamed, I think we've really got to take a look at, our perception of reality and what's real. Because I see that, when I'll do an ultra event like a Grizzly, I'll see a grandma in the starting chute. And you know what? She can, and then you'll see them finish, right? And just to speak to what you're saying there.
Yeah, I get at this a lot too, and maybe you do, maybe you don't, but lots of people, let's say I haven't seen them in a couple weeks or months, and they're like, oh, you're probably super skinny now. I'm like, no, man, like, you don't quite understand, like, how much I have to eat to be able to run the distance. Like some of these people that run ultras, yeah, they're string beans, but like, maybe that's part of just their body makeup, and they can just do that. I don't know how they do it, but good for them. And just like, no, I don't really think I've changed that much. I just run longer distances.
Josh, we're winding down, but I want to give you the opportunity to say whatever you want people to know about the 90K Ultra Revival. I know you gotta, with your schedule and your training, that you gotta get to bed. So here's your chance. Let the listeners know whatever it is that you want them to know about your event. Let her rip.
Oh, well, first, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. To your listeners, like, to those of you with MS, like, hopefully we find a cure for you sooner than later. It's a terrible disease. I don't think there's enough public knowledge on how terrible it is. And the last thing is, if you're able to donate and you can't find the link, just go on Facebook, go on Instagram, search 90K, and that's 90KULTRA Revival. Our Evival, and or get a hold of Sean, and he can kind of point you in the right direction, and we can get you sorted out to make a donation. They are all appreciated. I think right now I'm just over 14,000 raised with a goal of 20, and I'd like to get to that goal so we can get some more research done for you guys.
Now, for the listeners, I made a mistake, and when I was editing, I kind of clipped off Josh's final goodbye. So once again, that was Josh Barron. 90K Ultra Revival is the event. You can find the 90K Ultra Revival on Facebook and Instagram. If you're having trouble finding him, send an email to Sean, SEAN, at ownmultiplesclerosis.com. Reach out to me if you're having trouble finding him, and I will definitely put you in touch with Josh. And I just want to say in closing that it was a great pleasure having Josh on the show. I'm so happy he made some time for me. It's his event in a way is near and dear to my heart, since it's very similar to what I've been doing, and I know the amount of work and the effort and the time commitment, and not only on his behalf but on behalf of his wife and his family. I mean, it's an incredible commitment, and at the end of the day, he's doing it for us. He's raising money for us to hopefully, as he said, find a cure. So please support him. It would be awesome if we could get him over the $20,000 mark and higher. And it doesn't matter if you don't live in Canada. I know a lot of you listening live all over the world. Even if you can only afford a small donation, it all helps. So please find Josh. Please support his event. And I know for myself, I'll be looking forward to seeing him in a couple weeks. Anyways, that's it for the YEGMS podcast this time. Stick around. Like I'm on live radio or TV or something. But watch for the next episode. Should be out pretty soon. Until then, take care.